everyone, Captain Happy here. I am bringing you episode 7 of From the Jaws of Defeat in my Tier 7 French cruiser Algerie. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but I am grinding pretty hard for the Henry now, having watched a lot of King of the Sea and seeing the meta and how popular it is. Methinks me wants one. So, real quick, let's go over the consumables and modules. Defensive AA. I could go with Hydro, but the way I play the French cruisers is a little bit flanking and using the speed, so Hydro not that useful. Plus, I can mount a fighter. The speed boost, definitely going with the premium speed boost, as that's a big part of the French flavor. And as you can see, really the main reason for the premiums is the cooldown time is significantly less. Also, main battery reload booster. Again, with the French kind of flavor, I have to do a better job of remembering to use mine, which I do an okay job of in this game. So modules, main armaments, mod 1, pretty default. This one's steering gears. Now, I have the engine boost mod, but I'm saving that for when I get to the Henry. To this point though, steering and propulsion, I seem to lose that frequently, so not a bad take there. Aiming systems mod 1, pretty much with all my cruisers, whether they're fast firing or not, I go with aiming systems. Just kind of the way I tend to go, and don't need the AA or the turret traverse. So here, propulsion mod 2 goes very nicely. Good synergy with the speed and the speed boost of these French cruisers. So next we look at what I have on the exterior. Again, and going with the camo, 100% Captain and an XP because I'm grinding. Sierra Mike for the 5% speed, and then both fire flags as I sling a lot of HE and hope to get some fires. All the rest of the flags are economic, again, in the midst of a grind. So next we look at the captain skills. Pretty much with all cruisers and DDs, priority target is the #1 thing to get. I go with it on everything, and it even works on some battleships. It can be pretty useful. So that's good for the first one. Adrenaline Rush, increase your reload as your health diminishes. Almost always take hits. So that helps. Demolition Expert, again, slinging the 203s and the HE. I will be getting Superintendent, but to this point, I don't really burn through all my consumables yet, so that can be after. Now, Inertia Fuse. I got it already, and I kind of regret getting it already. However, this is my captain for Henry, or it will be, so I probably should have gone with Concealment first. But, you know, no regrets. I don't need the Concealment right now, so even though Inertia Fuse is useless with the 203s, I'll take it for now. And that's going to be my next target, Charles Martel, so I need a little less than 100k in the XP department to get there, and you all will be privy to that when I do. So the matchup here, we're on Haven, and it's Domination. It's a Tier 8 battle, so I'm right in the middle, which Tier 7 seems to be kind of the sweet spot right now. I don't often get into Tier 9 games, and I see a fair amount of Tier 5s, so it's really nice. I like, you know, spending some time at the high tiers, but if you want to go mid, if you want to have some fun and you're not just grinding like I am, Tier 7 it seems to definitely be where it's at right now, with the matchmaking. So the only element, so this is a From the Jaws of Defeat. So, without spoiling too much, our team gets kind of on the ropes and finds itself there throughout most of this match until near the end. But I want to take this opportunity to point out something again. I recently did a video called "To Be Greater Than the Haters," and while that one had an individual in chat who was particularly abrasive and negative, and a lot of what they said was pretty uncalled for in my opinion, This one has something similar. Now, I'll preempt any criticism of mine by saying, well, I'll start with the positives. It's our hipper here, and I don't myself run any mods that let me know the stats of the rest of the players or anything like that. I feel like, yeah, maybe it could be a benefit, but I actually feel like the risk is not worth the reward, where you're more inclined to kind of follow suit here and make more negative assumptions about your team, or worse, the negative team, and underestimate them. And that can be bad for the course of the battle and the result of it. All that being said, it's nothing too bad. The team gets called noobs. He calls good game inside like the first minute, which I personally don't understand. For me, and I don't even notice till later, but for me, something that's happening a lot that I'm not too big a fan of is people making judgments that either they can't possibly know with any amount of accuracy, or they're just simply making those judgments far too early. So again, I said I'm going to start with some of the positives. This individual, yes, he calls out his team as noobs, he calls good game really early, but he doesn't go sit in a corner and hide. He doesn't go AFK, he doesn't give up other than in chat. He actually, I think he ends up doing the best on this team. He ends up carrying his weight in a fair amount. So I'll try not to be too harsh and just point out what I don't like, which is kind of how it makes your teammates feel. When this early in the match, you're calling them all noobs. Whether they're actually noobs or not, it's kind of irrelevant. I don't understand how it helps your team by being critical in that way. Now, all of that being said, I know, totally understand that no amount of me talking about it or anyone else bringing it up in chat is going to change the general demeanor of individuals like this. They tend to be how they are, they don't hate how they are, and it doesn't matter what you or anyone else thinks. But, I don't know, I guess I just wanted to spend a couple minutes on it in this video, because it does feel like something I'm seeing more, and it makes the game less fun. And as I said in kind of my last video, where I was introducing myself a little bit, the absolute #1 priority of me doing these videos is to try and do actually the exact opposite, to help make this game more fun for more people. And like I said in the last video, the more fun it is, the more people understand, the less noobish they are, the more fun it is for everybody. And I don't think you help the game get there by being critical. So I will let it go with that. I just wanted to bring it up because it's something that has been happening a bit, and it happened in this game, but it doesn't warrant much more attention. We'll get to the game itself. I have absolutely no idea what this Roma was doing. Now, I was actually scared. He's obviously focusing the Duke of Bjork, and there our Duke goes down. But sitting broadside, not moving at all, I was afraid. I had no choice but to show broadside for a minute that he would target me. Thankfully, that was not the case, and he decides to just sit there and burn out. So, okay, hooray. We'll take that. Now, okay, so I said I'm not going to talk about what happens as far as the criticism in this game goes. However, if you notice by looking at the minimap, part of a heavy amount of criticism in the game recently has to do with lemming trains. Now, they are a real thing. They can be detrimental to the success of your team. That being said, it seems like a tremendous amount of people don't understand some of the finer points and the differences between a lemming train and mutual support. Now, this is not a great example for this game is not a great example for me to be trying to highlight the differences, as what my team pretty much did uh, was kind of lemming train, and we right now are paying the price for it. We're down by 200 points, still hanging in there in the ship count, but the enemy team has three caps to our one, and our DDs have not even gotten close to contesting. Heck, we've got a North Carolina in one of the caps. That's how that's gone. And you can see to the east, their two DDs are actually starting to put some pressure on the last cap that we do have. So it's whoops, sorry, Hipper, sorry, critical Hipper. It is, this game is one of those games too where you do kind of get a good example of some of the potential downside of everyone clumping up and going in together. Now we have, at this point in the match, kind of separated. We've taken two different quadrants and have started putting fire, and it actually looks more like the enemy team has kind of blobbed itself up behind that big island over there. And hopefully it's the type of thing we can take advantage. However, what you will see, maybe it isn't a terrible example, is what the enemy team is doing. You might look at that on the map, and you might say, oh, lemming train. However, they control the cap, and they are also focus firing our friendly ships. Our North Carolina just got killed because that blob of ships all started shooting at them, and they put them down. And you know, it's, if you can make your fire more effective by doing that and working together as a team, a quote-unquote lemming train can work. Now, it can work, but we'll see as this game progresses how maybe it kind of has its downsides as well. I do, at this point in the game, I start to kind of turn back in because, you know, I want to start trying to slow this flank down a little bit and do what I can. So I pop my speed boost to make myself as maneuverable as possible, and I pop around this corner and have a bit of a brown alert as my priority target goes from 1 to 2 to 5, and at the lead there is an enemy North Carolina and an enemy Baltimore. Both APs, incredibly scary. And I get lucky because our friendly Baltimore also decides to sail in front at the same time, and he decides to show a little bit more skirt than I do. So it kind of immediately grabs the attention of almost all 5 people who were looking at me initially. I remember to pop my reload booster. Hooray! And sadly, I don't quite get the punishment I was hoping to on this Baltimore, but still not terrible. I did, however, lose my steering. And as I said in the intro, I do notice, and you'll see again here in a moment, I do notice on these French cruisers I lose steering and engine a fair amount. But my problem was that I'd already used my repair party, so I was stuck in this position. Thankfully, the North Carolina decides to look at our friendly Baltimore instead of me, because I'm pretty sure I could have been blapped out of existence right here if he decided to focus me. Thankfully for me, it was only the enemy York in the background, and I was able to more or less dodge most of his shells by utilizing one of the major strengths of this line, and that is the speed. I had hit my speed burst, hit the brakes, hit the accelerator, hit the brakes, basically made myself as maneuverable as possible, and yes, I did get punished, but I got away with it. So, you know, all's well that ends well, I guess, and despite having been in a bad situation there briefly, I was able to kind of squeak my way out of it. So now we see, again, looking at the minimap, we have finally retaken C, we've gotten the caps even, but we're still down by almost 300 points, and we're more than halfway through the game. I look at the minimap and I see that blob of enemies moving east or northeast, and they are cutting through B right now. So my last known location was heading northeast myself, and I kind of figure maybe I can get away with being a little bit sneaky here. and pulling a 180, getting around behind them. Maybe I can catch someone off guard with some AP. Maybe I can catch someone off guard with some torps. Or maybe they continue to push through into C and I can retake B. But you know, I start moving this way. I start trying to fire on whatever targets I can. And at this point, I had AP loaded for the York, who did not end up popping back up again. And so I start trying to put some fire on the Nagato in the background. The Tirpitz looks like he wants to come through that gap, and I think briefly about sending torps. But I'm in the second line, and our friendly DD, there's no guarantee he's going down. So I couldn't quite do that safely. What I really want to do is get around this corner and put down this North Carolina. But thankfully a teammate does that, and I don't have to worry about it. And so here, you see what I'm doing? I'm using my torpedo launcher in part to see if I have anyone who might be a target. I'm really looking at that Tirpitz, to be perfectly honest. Like the indicator isn't on him. But I'm also using it for those of you who don't. It's kind of an old trick now. But to give myself an idea of what direction the enemy ships are heading in. And I make a bit of a miscalculation here where I pop out from around this corner maybe slightly preemptively. I wanted to be a little bit more sneaky, and again, I kind of get away with it. Nobody's guns, I have people targeting me, but nobody's guns were pointed at me. They didn't see me coming. So I'm able to turn out and stop showing broadside before I get to the island, and all I end up taking is some secondary hits from the enemy Tirpitz there, who is hurting and looking like he's about to go down, thankfully. So the Queen Elizabeth decides to target me. I keep myself mobile, try to be a little unpredictable, and in this case I try to be unpredictable by actually showing broadside. I kind of had my fingers crossed there that her shot would be off, and I end up getting the kill. Hooray! So now you look, yeah, we're still down by about 200 points, but we brought the ship count. We're actually in the lead now for the first time. Now the lead is tenuous. Thankfully the enemy Tirpitz went down there. He was the closest, most immediate threat to me, but I'm not exactly looking so healthy myself. So what I have to do here, and again, priority target, I got two of them looking at me. I want this Capt though. Our team needs this Capt. So I popped the speed boost, and I am playing with the throttle. Turning a little bit, trying to keep myself, mostly I'm trying to keep my eye on the enemy Nagato, kind of slightly to my left there. But keeping my eye on the Nagato for shooting at me, but I definitely want this Charles to go down. And I get the kill on the Charles, so hooray. We are now up 5 ships to 3, and I have to do everything I can, including praying to RNGesus that these Nagato shells is firing HE, but with my HP, I want the cap and I don't want to take hits. Thankfully, between active maneuvering and a little luck with RNG, he doesn't land any of his shots. So we get the cap, we don't take any damage, and we now can focus on the York as the Nagato has moved around the island. And we are looking, the only thing I'm curious about is where their destroyer went. They're up over 900, they're at 914 now. So yes, we have the ship's advantage, and certainly you can see here in this shot, we have the HP advantage, dramatic HP advantage, and there goes the York, outstanding. But we still need to, continue, we need to keep making this move. And so I decide my torps will not be a threat to anybody. I decide to send them, kind of expecting the Nagato to turn back in. And there are the enemy DD's torps, so I now have a good idea of where the enemy DD is. Set fire to the Nagato, and the friendlies finish her off. So we went from being in a pretty dire situation here to now we'd more or less have to throw this game to lose. So the one miscalculation I make here is I turn back towards C, not realizing our Baltimore is about to enter the cap, and also judging by those torps, I misjudged where the enemy DD was heading as well. He actually ended up heading back towards A, and that will be to the benefit of our cruisers heading up to A. And I end up not even making it to the cap to try and cap that off. He gets spotted, and the end of the game is approaching quickly. You see I point out in chat, I'd call that a hell of a comeback, and then I add on despite half of us being noobs, which was kind of my little way of poking at the critic from early on. But just another example here. It goes to show you, no matter what the situation is, no matter how down it looks, no matter what your team's doing, keep your head down, keep trying, keep pushing, and you can end up with this type of result. A win where you maybe shouldn't have had the win, or at least you thought it was a real long shot to begin with. And I think that's the main thing I wanted to kind of get across here is don't ever give up. And there it goes. We get the last kill, we finish it off, and I end up with 92,000 damage. Not the best, not the worst, but we made it work. So I hope you all enjoyed. That was episode 7 of From the Jaws of Defeat. I will see you next time. I will say really quickly before I go, I am currently working on my second cinematic, and it is going to be a recreation of a pretty famous historical battle. And it is, I've gotten most of the shooting done for it. I just need to compose and edit a lot of my shots. It's going to take me a while, but I am really, really, really excited to present that to all of you. So be looking for that here in the next week or so. Thank you very much to everyone for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day. This is Captain Happy signing off.